right, we are going to take up the human systems review. I'm giving you some answers here. So I suggested you did 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 23, and 25. 15 says be able to identify the types of human blood using the following terminology. So what is an antigen? It is a protein found on red blood cells. An antibody is something that is designed to fight that antigen. So if you have the A antigen, you have the B antibody. The can donate to, can receive from the Rh factor. You should be able to read that table that we put together, okay? What are the components of blood? So in the event you weren't sure what the components of blood are, I want you to be able to tell me about the different cells. So red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. Give details on each of those in terms of function and structure. So be able to tell me what they do and what they look like, okay? And that just is that note that I gave you. You're not memorizing anything this semester. You have everything at your fingertips. What are the subsystems or circuits of blood in the circulatory system? So for this one, I want you to be able to know what the systemic, the pulmonary, and the cardiac subsystems are, okay? And they're just called circuits. So I highlighted that note with you during the human heart lesson. Trace the path of blood through the human heart. So we would start with the superior or inferior vena cava, going into the right atrium, going through the tricuspid valve, going to the right ventricle, through a semilunar valve, to the pulmonary artery, to the lungs, back from the lungs via the pulmonary veins, into the left atrium, through the bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle, through the semilunar valve, exiting via the aorta, all right? So you can check your answer on that. Valves are flaps of tissue that prevent the backflow of blood. So a sphincter in a digestive system prevents the backflow of food or chyme or anything like that. Valves serve the same purpose, but they're located in the circulatory system. Where are they found and what function do they serve? So they are found in the heart. They are also found in the veins, okay? So we have valves and veins that prevent blood from pooling in your vein. So in other words, and pooling in your feet. So when the heart gives a good pump, if you think about your feet, your heart, the blood in your feet are rising up a little bit into your leg. With the next pump of the heart, they're going to rise a little bit further into the leg until eventually they get up to the heart. If we didn't have those valves stopping the backflow, then blood would pretty much pool in our feet. And so think about that. Circulatory system, it's not just in the heart, it's also in the veins. How are oxygen and carbon dioxide transported in the circulatory system? That comes back to this. So oxygen is transported in the form of oxyhemoglobin, and carbon dioxide is transported in the form of the bicarbonate ion. And, okay, so that's the beginning of that. How is homeostasis maintained in the body? You don't have to worry about that, okay? We're not going to take care of that this semester. And then lastly, question 25, what controls your breathing rate? It's the amount of carbon dioxide, all right, in your blood. So it's the amount of the bicarbonate ion specifically. And the medulla oblongata is in charge of monitoring that. So you're part of your brain, your lower brain stem, very beginning of the brain, monitors the carbon dioxide rate in your blood and the concentration. And what controls your pulse rate? The amount of carbon dioxide. Okay, so that controls it. The pacemaker is in the heart, and I'm just going to flip off of this now for a second and find a heart. Okay, here's a heart. So the pacemaker, I had you look at that diagram, that video, because I was having a lot of technical difficulty at that point. The pacemaker is basically found in this area, okay, the sinoatrial node. And what it does is it electrically determines when this is going to contract. Once this contracts, then the ventricles contract, and then you know how the contraction moves down all the way through here into the Purkinje fibers, okay? So the pacemaker, just going back to the question, explain the pacemaker. The pacemaker is a natural node in the right atrium that controls when the atria are going to contract, which then influences when the ventricles are going to contract.